Welcome back to the newest episode of Brogressive. I'm coming here under not my favorite circumstances because the United States is facing a constitutional crisis. Unless you've been living under a rock lately, the Trump administration has taken some of the most questionably illegal, if completely illegal, and completely unconstitutional behaviors and actions in deporting Kilmar Abrego Garcia. What was his status?
Legal asylum seeker. Like in 2019, he was granted asylum by like a federal court because they determined that if he went back to El Salvador, he's an El Salvadorian national, he would basically be killed by the local gang. I forgot what the exact gang is. I know it's not MS-13. That's the one he's accused of being. I think it's like something 18, Barrio 18 or something.
I was going to say,
Yeah, anyway, so the point is, they deported him, even though the Supreme Court is basically saying bring him back. And
right,
now we're
questionably in a constitutional crisis of what happens when the presidency decides, hey, you know what? I don't have to answer the Supreme Court, even though it's a 9-0 ruling. And despite his protected status, they still deported him. They took him in March 2025 they pulled him over with his son in the car and his wife
yeah.
in Maryland.
No, his son. I think he was taking his son to school or something.
And I think they said they called the wife and said, get here within 15 minutes or we're like sending the kid to custody.
Crazy.
And the worst part is that they put him in the, what is it, SECOT? I'm saying that right, CECOT, the Terrorism Confinement Center in El Salvador.
Which is horrific. And basically there's this like kind of idea that you don't leave that place unless it's in a coffin.
Wasn't it the
And the thing is, like, the basic essence of it, so basically the problem is that I was kind of laying this out in the thread when I was still on private. I went back on public now. Basically what happened is that Bukele, who's the president of El Salvador, doesn't want to let this guy go. And since he's an El Salvadorian national, he technically has jurisdiction over him when he's in El Salvador. And then if the Supreme Court has ordered Trump, hey, bring this guy back or he's going to be in huge danger, like, the Trump admin can basically like produce affidavits or whatever saying they've done this, but are they actually legitimately going to try? Like, is the Trump admin going to pressure Bukele? And then is Bukele going to say yes? It's just like the thing is, I would love for him to come back and be with his like wife and kids and just like have a normal life and be able to get like on a pathway of citizenship because like, but the thing is, you need the consent of Trump. He needs to get out of El Salvador. He needs Bukele's permission. To get into the United States, he needs Trump's permission. And you guys know as well as I do, that's going to be a little difficult to get for obvious reasons. And that's aside from the fact the White House is propagating a bunch of stuff about how he's like a criminal and a wife beater. And I don't know what's true or not. Like, I'm a pretty, like, you and I and you guys are like multiple people. We understand the process of like, hey, regardless of this guy is like, has done this stuff, he still deserves due process. He should have like been able to go through the courts. But I don't really know, like, I don't know what the truth is. Like,
Yeah,
it's
well,
not very
so I
clear.
know they've claimed that like, oh, two courts found him as being a member of MS-13 or something, but that is
Yeah.
like very dishonest because it was two courts under the reason to believe standard, which is like even less than far less than beyond a reasonable doubt, even more so than probable cause for an arrest. It's an even lower standard. It's like 10 to 20% like confidence is required for that, and that was all they found. So they basically said like it's a reasonable accusation that like to move forward with this case and not immediately dismiss it. But then of course when the court granted him the stay from any sort of deportation because of the risk if he returned, that was them essentially reversing the prior decision because one of the requirements to meet the like stay from deportation that he was granted is to not be a member of any criminal organization. So when they granted him that stay, they were essentially saying, we do not find any like convincing evidence that he is a member of one of these gangs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know about the domestic violence accusation because his wife, like, they asked his wife about that on TV, on the news, and she was like, it was just a domestic conflict, and she just kind of like, she said she overreacted, and I don't know what the truth is there. But I also know that if he committed domestic violence in the United States as a legal resident, he should be prosecuted for that in the United States. He should not be deported to a gulag in El Salvador, which is like, he's not allowed to be there just because, like, but the problem is, like, Van Hollen, who's the senator from Maryland, went down to El Salvador and was trying to figure out what's going on. And people like right up to like Bernie Sanders and all these other senators were like, bring him back. And it's like, I just am wondering what Democrats and like liberals and like everybody online and the commentariat is going to do when they can't bring him back, because it's not even because of what Van Hollen is doing. It's because you need permission from Bukele and Trump to bring him back. And it's like, I don't know how. Like, I'm just
I
kind
guess
of like,
in theory, if it got toxic enough, like, I mean,
Well,
it does seem impossible, but also it's as easy as I do feel like if Trump decided he wanted that done, he could get it
yeah,
done in like 5
exactly.
minutes. I mean, obviously
No,
that's a
I
high bar,
absolutely
but
agree. I absolutely agree that Trump could do it. I guess my point is that, like, that's why they're trying to poison the well, basically. That's why they're trying to put out all this, like, criminal info that's, like, mysteriously sourced and stuff. Because, like I said, I'm very much of the mind that I don't really care what he did. I don't think he should be disappeared to a gulag with his child in the back seat. Like, and
and
the thing is,
even what he's alleged to do, I was just looking. So in 2021, his wife filed for a temporary protective order against him.
mhm,
But the case was dismissed in June 2021 when she didn't appear for the
okay,
final hearing. And then she later explained that she sought the order out of caution, influenced
yeah,
by a
exactly.
previous abusive relationship, and that situation didn't escalate further. And she said they resolved the issues privately,
Okay,
attending counseling, and that their marriage strengthened in the years
yeah, and the
after.
thing is, like, that's the other thing that I'm kind of just like, I don't really think that even on the off chance she's like being manipulated, la la la, I mean, there's like actually a cause for like arrest for domestic violence. Like, I don't think there is. But if there is, that has to be handled where he's legally a resident of. Because I double checked like multiple times. So I was like, okay, is he an illegal like resident? I'm like, no, he's not. The federal court or the district court or whatever in 2019 basically very clearly said you've got protected status because if we send you to El Salvador, this gang will try to murder you. Like, that is the definition of like legal asylum. But this kind of goes into what I was saying. Like, a lot of the anti-immigrant types who are like voting on single issue curtailing immigration, they don't want stuff like TPS to be legal. That's what the Haitians were. They're like temporary protected status in Springfield that, they're eating the cats and dogs stuff. And it's
Hmm.
like, and I think that's what, like, I think a lot of people kind of missed it, like, during the time, because I saw a lot of like online liberals and like, I think even some elected Democrats going, but they're legal immigrants. Why do you care? It's like, that's not the real source of opposition to immigration. Like, they don't want them there. They don't care if they're legal or illegal. And, like, that's why, if you notice, the Biden admin granted TPS to, like, 300,000 Venezuelans and Haitians. And in August of 2024, they basically set it so it was going to expire in March, and it already expired in March of this year. And the thing is, I thought it was very interesting then because they were like, they let it expire because they didn't want Biden to have to reauthorize it because they knew that would hurt Kamala in the November election.
Mm.
And they were just like, if Kamala had won, she'd have reauthorized it in March, and it'd be fine. And obviously, the Trump admin wasn't going to do that. So now these people are like, I don't know where they are. Either they've self-deported back to Venezuela and Haiti, not Haiti, and or they're just undocumented right now because they've got no protected status because the Trump admin unauthorized them. And that's like the whole essence of this issue that I was kind of getting at. It's like they don't want them to be here legally or illegally, and it's like I don't know how to get around that.
Also, I guess what you're saying is like the crux of the issue is not temporary protected status, not any of that stuff. It's not DACA, it's not dreams, it's not the quality of what or whatever, or you asylum seekers, none of that. It comes down to, and we don't want you here,
Yeah.
is short of it.
And the thing is, like, it's just, I don't know. Like, I was telling my dad, I was like, carry your passport because I'm just a little paranoid because obviously my parents and I are citizens. We've been citizens forever, but like, for like over a decade now. And it's like, okay, I would rather just not be detained for no reason when we're traveling because, like, even American citizens are getting detained for 2 days.
I was gonna hear about the I would say it was two professors traveling like to and from China that were detained.
Yeah, and the random Japanese guy who's a Mormon and he was doing research and he got detained. And it's like, what are you guys doing here? Are you just detaining anybody that's like visibly not white?
It's interesting because it's like you're kind of watching this like, I would say like a purity test, but it's not like it's being done in like a smart or methodical way. You're just making it up as you go along, and all of it kind of boils down to we don't like people who aren't like white, which is it's interesting because it's like, how are we going to roll back this authority of like, oh well, actually TPS doesn't even matter. It's like, well, hold on, wait a minute, you can't just get to decide on a whim who's a citizen who's not based on some random attribute up there walking down the street and the color of their skin. Like that's That's not how we.
Well, actually, the president does have that authority to an extent because he decides who gets TPS. The
Mhm.
problem right now is that Biden just kicked it down the road because he obviously didn't want to reauthorize it for hundreds of thousands of people right before the election. And I get it. Like, I think everybody assumed that, hey, if Kamala wins, she's just going to reauthorize it. It's going to be fine. But now these people are in limbo and they're like in trouble. And it's like, I don't know, like, I guess my point is that it's a lot more complicated. The problem a lot of this, like, the backlash is kind of out of Biden's hands or out of Democrats' hands because obviously more migrants are going to come when Trump is not in office. Like, they're
Yeah.
going to be deterred by the fact they're terrified Trump will just like brutalize them and their children. And it's like, I get it. And obviously more are going to come when Biden's in office because they just kind of like are like, oh, Democrats are going to be nicer to us. And like, I understand why. Yeah, you guys know about what do you guys think about the whole idea of like the asylum gaming, so to speak? Like, what do you think of that?
Can you
Explain
Yeah.
gaming a little bit. So from the political perspective or from the people seeking asylum?
Well, okay, so basically the argument is that you have to apply for asylum in a third country. I don't really know exactly how. I think some law firms, pro bono and stuff, that basically you can, if you're a migrant and you want to come into the United States, like an economic migrant, you come to the United States border, say you're seeking asylum, and by law, they have to give you a trial for asylum, and that can take
Mm.
years. So, and they will let you into the country, and you're kind of in a limbo phase because you don't have a work visa. So you're working under the table, which screws you over in terms of bargaining and stuff. So they can pay you less, but also you're in the country. And then when you have Greg Abbott busing all these migrants at the border up to New York and Chicago and Denver, and you basically create a lot of discontent within the people there. And it's like, they aren't going to Park Slope, they aren't going to Chelsea, they're going to like, the Bronx and parts of Brooklyn with a lot of minorities, which is, I mean, that's one major reason minorities in big cities shifted so hard, right? Because they didn't want the migrants there.
I guess, are you getting at that there might be like a causal link between the places where they bust lots of migrants and the biggest shifts?
Yeah, look at what happened in the Bronx. Look what happened in Queens. Like, look at the shift there from like 2020 to 2024. Like, you can talk about turnout and stuff, like Democratic turnout went down. But something I linked in is that like there was basically like it was like a town meeting in like the south side of Chicago about like building a migrant shelter. People are really furious at this idea. This is like the south side of Chicago. It's predominantly black. It's very low income, and it's these people don't want them here. And I think there's this, holistically speaking, there's this idea that that the emerging democratic majority of all these people of color banding together and voting Democrat. And obviously the part that people miss about this is that you need to keep Obama's margins with non-college white voters, which obviously didn't happen. But basically what happened is all these voters are going rightwards and we don't really have a fix for them. So
Well, I mean, wouldn't a lot of this also be downstream of, well, not a mix, not just the increase in migrants, right?
migrant population, yeah, same thing, yeah.
But also downstream of a lot of these cultures are inherently culturally conservative. I mean,
Yeah.
is very Catholic. I mean, a lot of these cultures are not this uber progressive. I've been using this word a lot, and it kind of makes me feel weird, but really woke stuff. They're not cool with that.
I
That's
don't
not.
mean it in a derogatory way. So it's like, but the thing is, it's ironically, Hispanic Catholics are actually less conservative than Hispanic evangelicals, and the ones that like in the Panhandle of Texas, if you notice, that's deep red.
Yeah,
Because a lot of Hispanic evangelicals have settled down there. Anyway, but the point is, they're the ones that are really conservative. They're the ones that are like dug in, basically.
That
But it's
tracks intuitively to
yeah.
me. Like canvassing in the summer, like leading up to the last election, there were so many like big Democratic hacks that were really fun. Who I'd knock on the door and it's like all Catholicism stuff all around the door, and it always surprises me when they're like, "Of course, blue all down the ticket." So there's
Yeah,
definitely quite a
like
few.
my friend's mom is like middle aged, or I guess she's older now. This Latina woman who's like staunchly anti-abortion, but she's like, I love Kamala, I love Hillary, and because the thing is, like, she's not actually like she's not really that conservative, even though she's been here for 40 years, and she's still like very Catholic. She goes to church twice a week, and it's like,
Mhm.
but the ones that like, but obviously you guys have seen the shifts on the border, right? The entire border goes hard, right? Like, and Imperial County in California, Trump won it, so.
right. Well, everything. I mean, it's the places that were affected the most, like the places because I was I don't remember what research I was reading where it's in aggregate effects, right, of immigration, like everyone always talks about, oh, economic effects, right? In aggregate, it boosts the economy. It's good for
Yeah,
all.
of course.
But when we talk about the localized effects of, like, let's say we dump 70,000 new people into a localized area, that strains local resources. You can't have that all in one go. And I think that's kind of what we're touching on here, but also the crux of the argument, right, is, oh, well, immigration in aggregate, it works. It's a good thing. It's good for the economy, it grows, and we need people. But you also can't dump like 70,000 people into one local area. There's not enough beds, not enough housing.
Without warning, yeah. Because,
Right.
like, this goes back to the whole, like, NIMBY argument. It's like when there's not enough housing, there's not enough affordable housing, you're
Right.
cramming 9, 10 people into a 2-bedroom apartment. And it's like, what are you going to do? And it's
Everything is
like,
abundance.
yeah, no, me and Armand had this, like, dialogue in, like, 22 or 2023, because, like, he was saying, like, oh, it's just, if you build more housing and give them work permits, there won't be any issues. And I kept on saying, like, no, this is, like, a combination of that. Like, it'll help at the margins, absolutely. But, I feel like a lot of people are just not, like, willing to acknowledge that there's a big cultural, like, disconnect between people like me who are like, okay, whatever, more immigrants in the area, it's, like, fine, as long as they're, like, assimilated and, like, not doing crime. Like, I don't really, like, care if it's like I don't, like, have, like, this idea. But there's a lot of people that, like, place a lot of value on the existing culture of a country,
Mhm.
and that's a little more, like, and obviously here's the other thing, like, you guys both know this, like, people who are less well off tend to be more culturally conservative because they're trying to conserve what they actually have, which is the existing culture. It's like it's a twisted cycle. Like, I get it, but I guess the point is, like, it's very hard for me to, like, kind of square all this in my head because, well, I understand, like, what doesn't bother me bothers a lot of people who are not me. So
Right. Well, and I was gonna say the other core component that I want to get is like the culture part. I think a lot about the word like assimilation, right? And I think about multiculturalism. A lot of these words that are kind of buzzwords from like the '90s, right?
yeah.
I have a lot of professors that are like very old school civil rights era like activists.
Oh,
Yeah, or well, I used to, but besides the point, one of them ran with Jill Stein. So if that lets you know anything, but whatever.
okay.
Anyways, they're all like, nope, like, you do not assimilate, you do not know multiculturalism. Like, no, we get to maintain our own separate, like, almost with separate. They're more or less just saying separate but equal type thing. And I'm like, okay, weird. But with a lot of these, especially when people become citizens, they come in, they're very patriotic. They're very proud of being an American. Like,
Yeah.
again, anecdotal, but in my experience, people that are not born in the United States are the ones that are the most proud of the United States. Like, it's one of that weird things of like people who are second generation, third generation, or my generation, right? Kind of take it for granted. But these people that got their citizenships is they have an American flag on their wall. They love this country. They, they stand for the stars, think about it, like they tear up. Like it's really
Yeah.
beautiful,
I mean, I was born in India. I get it. Like, I don't sound like it, but I get it. Like, um, yeah, no, it's like something else I've noticed. It's like, I think I said this before, like, and I got, like, I think Gen Z might be more, like, racially segregated than, like, millennials. Like, I'm a young millennial. I'm 30. What I've noticed is that, like, I don't think it's intentional or anything, but I think, like, Indian Americans who are, like, even a couple years younger than me, I've looked at their weddings. They're, like, very, very Indian. Like, all their bridesmaids are Indian, and I'm like, okay. Like, I don't think it's a good or bad thing. Like, it's whatever suits you and whatever floats your boat, but, like, I guess the thing is, it's kind of interesting to me, like, their friend groups are less, like, racially diverse. They're, like, and they went to, like, similar colleges as me and, like, had, like, similar upbringings, and it's, like, interesting to me. It's, like, why is that the case? And I don't think there's a solid answer here.
Well, I'm curious, Max, like the dynamic you're talking about of kind of like the shifting messaging from the liberal side about like what immigration is and should be. Like, I'm wondering if that has anything to do with the political shifts we've seen making it more unpopular. Like, do you think like some of the left-wing advocacy types shifting from like focusing on like, oh, the patriotism of it, like they're gonna come here and assimilate and make our country stronger, like they want to come here and be part of the culture, versus kind of shifting it like the left-wing advocacy perspective to more of like their culture is going to be brought here. Like a shift away from kind of the old school like assimilation message. Do you feel like that like
Yeah. That's a good question.
mattered politically?
I mean, I'm of two minds where like, no, I don't. Yes, it does. Like I can't tell because I mean, again, it's not statistically supported or strongly supported, but I don't know that people are that upset of like people coming here and bringing new things because it's like, yes, it's scary at first, but when you try a new restaurant, new foods, like again, it works out in the longer term. And same thing of like immigrants will come here and become very patriotic, very proud of America, like love this country to death. I mean, I love this country too, like, but it's that patriotism. And I don't think that was the crux of the argument. I think a lot of it came down to, oh, with the refugees, we have to take care of them, and it was like kind of getting at this
Yeah.
thing, and back to what Rooney was saying of like they're conserving what they have, and when you're saying, hey, we need to share, and you're like, well, but I barely have anything, and of course that I think a lot of it comes from the right of like, oh, well, they're coming, they're taking your job, they're taking these, they're taking.
Yeah.
You always hear the same, like they're taking your social security benefits, they're taking your job, your food, and it's like, no, they're not, and we know that, like as educated elites do, like. But it's hard to make that argument of like, no, they're not, or like, oh, they're going to displace jobs of like, low skill labor, and then you'll move up in the chain. And they're like, what does that even mean? And I'm like, well, I don't know how to explain that. I don't know is the answer. And
Well, maybe it's more of a messaging shift from like, here are the benefits these immigrants will provide to the country, and therefore you, versus like, here's how we're going to help them because they need help.
well, exactly. Like I mean, I know again, being in college, like everyone loves to go, I hate Ronald Reagan, like typical leftist stuff. But I think a lot about his speech about like, anyone can go to Japan, but you can't become Japanese. Anyone can go to Germany, and you won't become German. But anyone from any corner of the earth can become an American. And like I think that's something beautiful because again, we don't have an established race and ethnic group or whatever like these abstract things mean. Like you can come from anywhere, any corner of the globe, be any type of religion, race, like sex, identity, none of it. None of it matters. You can become an American. Like I really wish we had prioritized that of the American isn't this stagnant idea of, oh, this white person who lives in a white picket fence with two dogs and, a blonde wife. Like America is a melting pot. America is its best, its worst, it's all of it. And like I am very sad that like that's not what we're prioritizing of just America is strong and beautiful and made better by its it's kind of like the diversity of their strength thing, but a little less corny, I think.
I think there's this like long term, like I think that underlying something I've noticed is that I think the idea of immigrants as a burden, like the way or like a punishment, really rubs me the wrong way. It's like, or the idea, like I've noticed like kind of like a left wing mentality. It's like, oh, we colonized their countries, so they're here to punish us. It's like, no, I don't think human beings in this area are a punishment. I think they're just like everybody else trying to make a better life for themselves and their families.
Right.
And I think it's a little bit, I don't know, my whole thing that I'm kind of just like going back to is that like I think the Trump admin is like capitalizing on a lot of these like latent fears of like being displaced and like
Yeah.
and they're just not doing it in any sort of like they're doing it in a way that's like, as you said, kind of just like bringing about a constitutional crisis because they're ignoring the rule of law. And but then you have Pam Bondi, who's the attorney general, and like Kristi Noem, who's like the DHS secretary, and I don't know what they're doing. Like they're just
Apparently
lying
working
and
as an
lying
ICE
and
agent, or pretending to be at least, in
There
her
was
like
the-
cosplay gear.
Yep.
Oh my god. The like did you see what she was wearing? Like I don't mean to be like a woman. I don't mean to be like a girl about it, but like that's not what you wear to like do your job. She's going I don't did she even go to a prison? Like I don't know if she even went to that prison, but I know she was like
Something looked weird about it because it was like all like the people.
I thought it was like an AI thing, and it was like just horrific and dehumanizing. And it's like
Also Uncanny Valley, like it just didn't look real. Like something was kind of funky off, funky and off.
all I have to say is I'm keeping my dog away from her, like far away from her. Like, I don't know. And the thing is, you've got Pam Bondi, who's like, why did John Fetterman vote for that woman? Like, I get she's like she was AG of Florida or whatever, but like, this woman,
He's
you're
the
not
new
voting on
O'Connor
how,
cycle. There's
you're
no
not voting on her,
explanation.
you're not voting on her plastic surgery, which is like, okay, excellent. But like, you're voting on the fact she's going, whether she's qualified for the job and whether she's going to do a good job. And clearly, given she's like, justifying disappearing random legal residents to like, you know, gulags.
Yeah.
I would hope
Well-
he regrets his vote.
Yeah, you would hope if you can remember it. But you were mentioning that like liberals kind of will maybe get bogged down by like the specifics of it and be like, oh, these were actually like what like about the Haitian migrants, like they're actually legal, but that in reality, like the voters who were upset by it don't really care if they're legal or not. Like they just were upset about their presence. So I'm curious, do you feel like is there a limit to this? I mean, kind of getting more broadly to the political implications of all this scandal, like is there a limit to where he could get so insane and so like obviously scary gulag stuff that like those types of voters, or at least enough of them to swing an election, like start to think he's going a little far on the immigration stuff, or you just feel like it's like they gave him a mandate to be pretty extreme on it and aren't too upset?
Well, my whole thing is that like there's this like I don't think Kids in Cages during the first album was like popular. I don't think people liked it. They
Hmm.
didn't like the images of it. They didn't like anything about it. But then Republicans won the Senate. Like, they flipped multiple seats, and like I don't know. Maybe it doesn't have anything to do with like I think Kavanaugh helped. Okay, that was right before. You guys were pretty young then, but like I was paying attention and I was like horrified because I was like a young 20 something woman who's just like, what is going on here? And the thing is, like, I saw the Kavanaugh thing and I was like, shit, they're gonna win the Senate because this is gonna help them. And nobody believed me, but of course they won the Senate. And like, okay,
I mean,
wait,
it
you guys,
was pretty brutal Senate math. No, I mean, I was unfortunately pretty tuned in
no,
in
no,
high
no,
school
no.
there, but because I know we did
It was a
great in the
brutal
House at
map.
the. Okay.
It was pretty brutal. The map is just bad, but like Sherrod Brown won, John Tester won, Joe Manchin won, but Bill
Hmm.
Nelson, didn't
Yeah,
run
that should
Spanish
have.
ads. And I honestly think that Donnelly and McCaskill should probably voted for Kavanaugh because I think that might have helped
Mm.
them. But the point is, if you guys remember, Joe Manchin voted for Kavanaugh, but you know what he did? He basically went to Susan Collins. Him and Susan Collins were in their little like powwow session. He's like, okay, I will say her vote if she does, but she has to go first and she has to decide whether he's in or he's out. And she voted for him, and she gave her little speech, and he was in no matter what. And Joe Manchin comes out an hour later. It's like, okay, I'll vote for him, whatever. He's like, he didn't want to vote for the guy, but he had to vote for the guy, and he won re-election barely. So like,
Right. Huh.
and it's just one of those things. It's like I want to know, like Ben was asking, like I don't know. I would hope there's a limit, but my cynical self, which unfortunately is right more than I want it to be, is like, I think they're going to vote on the tariffs and the economy, but we can't just not talk about it when it's a top 3 issue, when it's like on the news constantly. Democrats can't just like avoid the conversation.
Right. Well,
Like,
and
that's impossible.
it comes down to the economy, stupid. I was reading Jonathan Allen, and I don't remember the second authors. Was it Fight? It was like the whole Trump
Yeah,
campaign.
yeah, yeah. I have that
And
one.
yeah, it was. I'm not going to say it was the best one I've ever read, but it was good. And one of the things that it talked about was the hierarchy of needs that Trump just kind of laser focused on, where it was like food, energy, gas, housing, just the same cost of living, the basics, right? And I do wonder, you've seen that chart of, immigration right now has
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, he's
Inflation and immigration, and he managed to tie that all together. And like the stupid they them ad, it's like he tied together immigration, crime, trans issues, and managed to be like, Kamala doesn't care about your problems. She cares about
Mhm.
this, like, she cares about illegal immigrants getting transgender surgery in prison.
And it's like liberal, crazy overspending and waste of government money, like, is
Yeah,
also
it was
thrown in there too. Like,
horrible. And
it's
like,
every single unpopular Democratic framing in one.
yeah, and also, on that book, there's this whole passage about the they that mad. It was like,
yeah.
'cause it was Bill Clinton. He was basically saying, like, yeah, it's the economy, stupid, but they're not going to listen to you about the economy unless they think you care about them.
Right. No, I was saying he was going down and he kept hearing the thing is, oh, is she really for they thems and all that kind of stuff? She can spend all that money on that? And that's insane.
Well, and that's what I was saying, that there is an economic element to it too, not even just like a mental, like, oh, they're on my side, like, oh, this is what she's spending money on if she's in power versus like on me.
Yeah,
And
since
oh, sorry, go ahead.
just wanted to like kind of touch on like back to our original topic about the due process stuff. What do you think Democrats should do to like address the fact they are breaking the law and ignoring the courts? Like, what do you think they should do? Because like I don't know. That's why I was so hesitant to say much about it, because I was like, I don't know.
I think they should frame it as these are legal residents and therefore you too are at risk. And I think I've seen some of these memes of like, when you, after leaving a 1-star Tesla review during the Trump administration, it's like, you're like in some El Salvador prison. Like, I feel like stretching people's understanding of what legal resident means in the same way that the Trump administration would do the opposite, I think would make sense to kind of be like, oh, if they can send a legal resident to some like slave camp in El Salvador, they could do the same to you, and kind of like trying to connect it to like everyone's at risk, even if it's maybe a little bit stretching the truth. Like, that hysteria I think would be effective. And honestly, like we've seen, like, the amount of people coming into the US, like just visiting from other countries, has gone down
It's bad
dramatically.
for the
Like,
economy.
very bad for the economy, but also I just think that mass hysteria is real and justified. And like, even this is like an anecdote, but my frat, a couple weeks ago at the end of a party, a girl slipped on like a puddle and she ended up dislocating her knee. And I was like sobering the party, so I had to like help her and everything. And we were gonna call an ambulance and have her go, but she is on a visa from another country, and probably she would have been fine, but I understood why she refused to let us call 911, because she was worried that like they were gonna like take away her visa or something, and then she was gonna get in trouble if the cops came. So like we ended up having to Uber her to the emergency room, and it was entirely based on like her fears around like this Elon stuff. So I think like obviously she has an actual visa, but I do feel like that could trickle down where like I wouldn't be surprised if some of my random friends who maybe aren't that tuned in are like, I don't know, like I don't want to do this thing. What if he sends me to an El Salvador prison? And I think that could be like effective framing.
Well, yeah, and I was
Even like, sorry.
No, I would say I just want to build on that because the meme part actually is the subtle genius of it because, we can keep doing the thing of ringing the alarm bells of, oh, it's a dictatorship, it's King Trump, it's King Elon. Ring the alarm bells all you want, but it means nothing when it falls on deaf ears, right? People are tired of the, oh, you guys have to worry about it. They're like, oh, you just
The
have...
boy who cried wolf, yeah.
Yeah.
They
Like,
think we're still crying wolf, but like...
I still get it from my family. They're like, you just have Trump derangement syndrome. And I'm like, okay, your business is going to get nuked.
It's kind of like how I was talking about framing immigration, where framing it as like, we're worried about these other outsider people who are suffering, we need to protect them, versus like, oh, here's how it's going to benefit and personally affect you selfishly. I think it's the same framing here, where it shouldn't be like, oh, all these other people are at risk. It's like, no, you are too under this. Like, they could do the same thing to you, and voters are selfish, so I think that could work.
Well, and I don't even know if it's considered selfish. I would just say, I would lean into
rational.
the King Trump part. I would call, yeah, I would call him King. I would call him King Trump, and like the idea of he gets to decide who's a citizen, who's not, and like again, TPS status, like even if that he's under his purview, like, the idea of he gets to go, nah, you don't get due process. Bye, King Trump.
Yeah, they can't do that, and also if they're not deporting you to El Salvador.
Well, yeah.
Like, why are you detaining me? Like, there's this whole thing where I once got detained in DC for like crying in public at 5 p.m. They like kept me for 20 minutes. The police kept me for 20 minutes, and I was like, dude, let me go. Because they like accused me of being on drugs or whatever. I was not. It was like I was just sad about something. And like I like threatened them with my non-existent lawyer. But the point is, like, that should not have happened. They were wasting their time and energy and their money harassing a random 25-year-old for no reason. And like,
well, yeah, and
that's
I think
what they're doing right now, basically. They're just trying to like torture random people for the sake of it.
Yeah.
And honestly, they're not like handling actual issues, like actual crime. Like, even if you want to talk about migrant crime, why didn't they catch the people that are like raping and killing Lake and Riley? Like, what were they doing there? Instead, they're like harassing random dads who are just driving their kids to school.
I was going to say, if you want to tie it in, it's like you can do all the memes of, oh, like sent to El Salvador prison because I accidentally said I want my 401k to work. That'd be good. Like, and Gen Z, it's like, you really want to make a good, coherent argument of like, instead of focusing on your 401k that's tanking, that the economy is going belly up, that manufacturing is on decline, or instead of focusing on fixing the economy, Trump's too busy hunting down a dad with a son on the spectrum and a wife.
Yeah. And I like sometimes it feels silly when we talk about like the memes of it all. But I do think in today's world, that's kind of a stand-in for like a very salient, easy to talk about issue. Like if something can break through to meme form, I do think that translates even to like offline stuff where it's something that like is easily recognizable from just a few words.
The they them thing, like that should not be like like nobody even knows what that's about, but I know, everyone remembers Kamala's for they them, Trump is for you, because it's like
right. Well, it's
not even true. Like,
no. Well,
stupid.
Who in the ACLU thought that was a good idea to ask her that question? I just got to throw that out there. That was like,
well, that's the problem. Like, the thing is, like, these orgs are not really tied to the Democratic Party in the sense, like, they're not really like determined for the Democratic Party to succeed, but they're associated with the Democratic Party regardless.
Right.
The scary lingering thing is that I'm pretty sure Pete Buttigieg filled out that exact same questionnaire and gave the same answer, if I recall. So that's
Pete's
we'll see if it's still salient.
Kamala, that's the thing.
Exactly, he can talk his way out of it.
People just like be like, no, I don't know what you're talking about, and people will believe him. Like, I like Pete; he's a very nice man. But like, funny thing is, he'll just like tell you that he's like, nope, and like he'll just move on from it and talk about something else. And like,
no, I could so see him being like, no, of course I don't support something like that. That would be crazy. And just like moving on.
Yeah, but the problem is like I feel like the thing is they didn't reply to it, or the Harris campaign just did not engage with it, because like Jen O'Malley Dillon was like, oh, you don't have to engage with it, and I was like, saying like no, I don't believe that, and having people not believe you is still better than saying nothing.
Right. Yeah. I was gonna say, because they didn't bother to respond to it, and it was just, you're just losing on it. And of course, obviously, Bill Clinton was what he was saying anecdotally. You can't just let that out there. I mean, you can't leave that there. And I guess I wonder, like, they kept calling her JOD and O'Malley Dillon. I guess, what would she think? Because I'm sure you remember reading that same passage about how she was...
Yeah, I do. Because, like, I remember the whole passage. It started off with Bill Clinton going, dude, everyone in North Carolina and Georgia is asking about this stupid ad. And I have my own crackpot theory that Jen O'Malley Dillon's a Biden guy, gender neutral, basically. And it's like, and the whole like no distance, no, but like no daylight, sorry. And it's like I was like, why didn't she respond? All she had to do was say like, no, I don't believe that. I don't support that. Let's talk about how Trump's going to tank the economy. Like, it's just like you have to reassure voters. Like, first of all, like I didn't need it, you didn't need it, because we both are like, no, there's no way that's like going to be like a big thing. But then when if you watch like college football or whatever, like I'm not a big college football person, but I'd like have it on. That ad was on every single commercial break, and I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, it was gonna be. I mean, well, it's gonna be bad because it's playing college football. It's like it's easy, it's simple, it makes sense, and it's the same thing. I was gonna say. I don't know if you ever saw this, but there was a lot of memes going around where it was like clips of. You ever heard of the video game Battlefield, where it's the guys running around, they're shooting. It's just a generic shooter running around, but
Yeah.
it was clips of that. It was like me in 2026 going to war with whatever country because Taylor Swift told like my generation to vote for Kamala or something like that. I was like, wow, okay, this is what's like getting like 10 million views. Like this is insane.
Yeah, like Swifties are like an army in the sense like I would not want to get on the wrong side of them, but there's not like I don't even know. She couldn't get Phil Bredesen or whatever elected in 2018. He did better than he probably should have. Like he lost by like 6 or 7 in Tennessee. If Taylor Swift could like switch, like who could make elections like work the way she wanted to, like Kamala would have won, Phil Bredesen would have won. Biden would have probably won by more. And the thing is, like I don't blame her for going under the radar, given like when she endorsed Kamala, Elon tweeted something about how he should like he basically implied that he should impregnate her against her will. And I was like, I forgot exactly what he said, but he said something about like you should have children or something. And I'm like,
He's weird. I always wonder. 'Cause, like, I mean, have you read his biography, right, by Walter Isaacson, right?
a while ago, yeah.
Yeah, and I just finished it recently because I was kind of thinking it's 2023 and obviously it's missing some stuff, but I'd kind of like to know the idea of it. But something that never makes sense to me is for a guy who did all these things, what are you doing now? Why you have all this?
Midlife crisis.
But I guess, but I'm like, you could be going to space, you could be doing all these things, and instead you're like spending all your time on Twitter arguing with a guy named Catturd. Really?
Well,
I don't
I
know.
think the other thing is that like I think he just got radicalized by COVID and just like his was like a shut in during COVID like everybody else. And instead of like addressing these issues by going outside, he just kind of like leaned into it and then like it just got worse. And it's like, I don't even know what he's doing. And it's like, and it's really stupid because he's making everybody else's life harder because he's so powerful.
Right.
And I'm like, just handle your midlife crisis in therapy. Don't like try to like blow up the economy. But to be fair, I will give him this. He was trying to talk Trump out of the tariffs.
Oh yeah. Well, because he's gonna get hurt by him. I mean, like I was gonna say,
Yeah, of course. Like that's why he was taking Team H1B because he's like, wait, who's gonna run SpaceX and Tesla? I need people that know what they're doing.
right? No,
Like,
well,
and I'll give him that much. Like, did you listen to Space with Trump in 2024?
was it the one? This was after DeSantis and what was the other guy? Dean Phillips. Like that. I don't think I was there for that, but or at least
No, basically the TLDR is like the early, like when they were talking about immigration, they both were like, yeah, we want the smartest people in this country. So like that's why it was fascinating to me because I remember going like, huh, do
was this
you
the one where
really?
Trump was for expanded H-1Bs, but he got the wrong visa, and he's like, oh yeah, the H-2Bs, they work in my.
No. This was like before the election. This was like this was like right after the shooting, basically. Like, and it was basically saying that like Elon and Trump were both like really agreeing they wanted to bring the smartest people into the country. They're like, oh yeah, it's bad for criminals to come. And this was when Trump pretty much thinks that like asylum seekers are like people from mental institutions. Like that was the whole like thing. He was like, oh yeah, they're very crazy and they're very deranged. And I was like, okay, you don't know what an asylum seeker is. I'm just gonna let you think that. No, they literally had like a 5-10 minute talk about how like all these great immigrants are coming to the country and bringing us more money and like helping our businesses. And I was like, oh, are you actually gonna govern like this?
And the answer is no. I mean, the answer was no. It's embarrassing because like I was thinking the other day too. Not to get completely off topic, but I mean we might as well, right?
Yeah, good.
Do you remember when he first came in office and they signed like that like Unleashing American like, Energy thing? The like NEPA and review.
Yeah, I do.
But anyways, long story short, I was falling down the whole I hate NEPA, CEQA, California Coastal Commission thing just because like NIMBYism,
Here in
right?
California.
Yeah, and it's just like I don't know, a third of the city I was born in just got burnt to a crisp, and I was like, okay, well, we got to fix something. But anyway, long story short, Trump signed that whole executive order of like unleashing American energy, and I was like, oh, and there was getting some ground of like, oh, this could be a good thing. They're going to redo the Council on Environmental Quality, not going to do all these input things and all these little paperworks that are going to hold everything up. And I was like, oh, there's a chance that this may be the only like good thing that comes out of this administration. And yet somehow they still managed to fuck it up. Like they finally finalized their rules and it may actually be worse. And I was like, wow, that's impressive. Like you have actually managed to fuck up everything that I thought you would and then some. Like it's actually kind of embarrassing.
Anyway, so one thing I thought was interesting is like they, like kind of going back to what I was saying about the legal immigration thing, they were talking about that. Like they make legal immigration a lot harder. Like they screw up the H-1B lines, they screw up the green card lines, they make everything worse. And it's like the last time the H-1B quota was increased is 2000, right
Jesus.
before Bill Clinton left office, and he raised it from I think 60,000 to 150,000 or something like that. He basically doubled it.
Right.
And it was expiring. It expired 5 years later when Bush was in office, and they never brought it up again.
Mhm.
And that's when my parents and I came to this country because we got in with that quota.
Right.
Which is why I'm like, that's another reason why like Indian Americans love the Clintons. Like because Bill Clinton was the first one who's like, no, we're gonna like that .com boom. We're gonna let all these people in and like really improve our economy. Sorry to my NAFTA haters, but like it's not just about NAFTA. It's very much like the people that are always like super anti-NAFTA. Sometimes I'm like, oh, so what do you think about like immigrants? Like, what do you think about like the
Mhm.
areas that shifted allegedly because of NAFTA are also the areas that really hate immigrants? Like, what do you think about like my parents and me? Like, do you think we should not be in this country because we benefited from like the economic boom of the 90s and 2000? And like, they never answer the question of like, hey, what does immigration have to do with like your hatred of NAFTA? Because like NAFTA was signed in 94 or something. Like,
Right. Well, and a lot of this stuff comes downstream. And again, I want to harp on this one because this is something that I've been thinking about for a long time. And just
yeah.
I think a lot of like leftism and like control in like universities comes from like civil rights era people that learned what worked back then of like NIMBYism and like we got to stop the federal government, everything's bad, and they've been teaching it that way forever, and so they're still doing that line of thought. And like these people are the like free trade is actually bad because look at this one like island nation that it destroyed, and it's like, or look at this economy that doesn't really work in the Pacific because of free trade. It's like, hold on, wait a minute, like are you saying we should reverse it? What is your alternative? And for example, with NAFTA, right? It's, oh, these places that got deindustrialized. I'm sure you've seen those new papers that are coming out where it's actually the deindustrialized areas shifted towards service jobs that were higher paying. And we can revitalize these areas through different manners, but simply just going, oh, free trade is bad, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. We're not just going to go back to mercantilism and everything's to be made in our country because it has to be. That's just dumb. I mean, that's going to undo living standards by 100 years.
So the other thing is like, how are you gonna undo NAFTA? How are you gonna like bring back manufacturing? Like, are you just gonna like fire a bunch of people? Like, are you gonna like?
Well, and it's like also like, are we going to be like actually in the fact like, is this what you want, or do you want automation? Because we can have good factories, but you need automation. You need robots that can make these things even faster. And like it's another one of those things with the tariffs on China. I see people that are like, oh, it's good. We're going to stop them. We're going to stop China. It's like, hold on, wait a minute. You know that these tariffs are not going to work the way you think they will, right? It's not like the businesses are just going to go, hey, we're going to reshore everything if it's going to get undone in a week. Right now, factory numbers have just completely stagnated. They're not putting out new orders. Nobody knows what to do because of the uncertainty. You can't just reshore an economy overnight. Like that's not how that works. Even if you think we got a raw deal because you don't understand how trade works, like that's not how that works.
I'm not like an econ expert, but even I know what it means when the markets crash.
Yeah, if you see your 401k go this way, you're like, oh, it's supposed to go this way.
Yeah, I just haven't looked at mine. I'm just gonna not look at mine for a while because my it's just kind of really, it's like what are they doing? They're gonna really piss off the people that elected them, I guess. And that's why I don't really like the idea that like Democrats should be cheering on an economic meltdown though, because like who's gonna suffer? Like it just I don't know, maybe I'm too like much of a bleeding heart liberal, but like I don't actually want people to suffer for Democrats to win. Like I wish there was just like a way that we could like show that we're just better for the country through like organic means, but I don't think it's gonna work. Like
Just that dooming
yeah.
the Republican president comes in when things are good, destroys the economy, and then who knows if this one's bad enough, it'll be the next FDR, great Democratic president too. But it's awful because I understand that impulse. Oh, it's the economy meltdown. We're gonna win all these elections. Like, oh, okay, well that again, you're skipping over the part where the economy melts down and millions of people are now losing their jobs, their homes, their livelihood. You don't cheer for that. That's awful. Remember, people are human beings. Like, get off
They're
Twitter.
like
Remember that.
these are like your parents, these are your aunt and uncle, these are like your neighbors, these are like, your nice like football coach from high school. It's like, do you really want these people to suffer? Like, I
Yeah.
think the other thing that I kind of like think about is that Bill Clinton was the first two-term Democratic president since FDR. And then you had Obama, and then like I guess the thing is like I don't mean to be like a doomer about it, but like what are we gonna do? Like
Like,
this goes back to what we were saying earlier about the Garcia.
mhm,
There is not like a very easy fix for this, and I wish there was. Like, I wish we could just yell at Van Hollen and yell at Chuck Schumer and just like get this guy back and like get
right.
them to stop the like harassing random U.S. citizens and like trying to detain like my mother.
Mhm.
Like, my mother's not like my mother's an American citizen, but like I'm just saying, like
Yeah.
I wish we could do that. Like I wish I could just like write a nice email to Susan Del Bene and be like, hey, can you like make sure this doesn't happen? But she can't do that.
Right.
Congress can't do that.
No.
Like, yeah, that sounds like a really depressing way to end, but yeah.
No, I mean it's something that I guess I would like to leave our listeners with is what do we do? Like it's about where do we go forward when you have no power in Congress, in the Senate, in the White House,
The presidency.
and
Even if you did have power, Republicans are not doing anything because they're trying not to do. Like, I don't even know what they're doing.
well, they're afraid. I mean, from what I've heard, it's like because Elon will threaten to primary you, and I'm sure you remember with the budget blueprint in the House when Trump called and threatened, was it Victoria Spartz and a couple other members when they weren't going to vote for his budget? And it's like we're in that situation where there's no power to stop him. It's really, in my view, it's coming mostly down to the courts. The last bastion of
We're trying to rely on them to save us.
yeah, and the courts that were made to be notoriously slow and methodical, like it is scary.
That's why the Supreme Court was putting out an opinion at 1 a.m.
I was
They
going
were trying. Like, I will give them that. And I'm glad it was a 7-2. Like, I wish it was 9-0, but at least it was 7-2. Like, I'm
Right.
glad all of Trump's justices did that, at least. But, like...
I wonder if the ones that broke with us, I'm guessing it was Tony Barrett and Kavanaugh.
No, it was the only ones that, like, voted, like, against it were, like...
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say those are the two that's like they're kind of going along with everything. It's like really, guys, like come on.
Yeah, that, like, ACB and, like, Gorsuch and Kavanaugh were just like, no, we're not doing this.
Well, I wonder, like, do they see their place like in history as like we're going to be the justices that bucked the trend, or like I don't know.
No, I think they're just constitutionalists generally. I think they're just like I don't think they're thinking about their overarching like sorry, my husband's back. I don't think they're thinking about like the overarching symbol of history or whatever. I think they're just trying to like, you know, I think Roberts cares about the reputation of the court. I think the other ones are just like going along being like, no, we don't want like they're just being textualists.
Mm-hmm. Well, and KBJ's off at Broadway doing her show.
Well, she can't do much.
Yeah, I was like, when you're in the minority. But I guess it's a good point to lead it off. Like, what do you do when you're in the minority, right? It's a time
What
to.
do you do when the president of the United States is just like going, I can't do anything. I don't want to talk to Bukele.
When the president of the United States said, no, you guys are criminals. Bye-bye. I don't want to see you anymore. Like,
And do we know they're criminals? I don't know.
They didn't bother to check. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up there. Doroney,
Okay.
joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.